So I'm home visiting my parents in California a couple years ago, and it's like Christmas, right? And my dad's like, we're going to the store, right? And dad's like, so what should we have for like cocktails, right? You're the cocktail guy. I was like, we should have Brandy Alexanders. And as the word like Alexanders was coming out of my mouth, my dad was like, "Buh, buh, buh." And I'm like, I saw him like twitch, and I'm like, what? What is wrong with Brandy Alexanders? They're f***ing awesome, right? And he's like, oh, I had a really bad experience with Brandy Alexanders one time. And I'm like, oh, dude, tell me about it. I want to hear about my dad's hangover. So we had this cabin in the Sierra Nevadas. And he's like, remember when we sold the cabin? So my dad owned it with his buddy, Henry. And it was, Henry was like Uncle Henry. Like, they were just like drinking buddies. And he's like, remember when Henry and I had to sell the cabin? And I was like, yeah. You guys went up for that weekend. He's like, yeah. Well, so we had to sell all of the mattresses and the couches and all the stuff. You know, we had like a yard sale, and we sold all the stuff, and we had, you know, I don't know, late 70s, early 80s, you know, we had like $100. And so we went into town. We asked the bartender, you know, what we should have for an after dinner drink. And the bartender was like, you should have Brandy Alexander. And we're like, okay, we never had Brandy Alexanders before, so we got Brandy Alexanders. We had like, he's like, we had 3 rounds of Brandy Alexanders, and I was so sick the next day that I was puking out of the side of the van, you know, like the family van. I was like puking all over the road. And I was like, you really barfed after 3 Brandy Alexanders? And he's like, no, 3 rounds. 3 blenders full of Brandy Alexanders. And I'm like, what? Blenders? Like, who the hell does Brandy Alexanders in a blender? And he looks at me like the first time, like my dad knows that like I know how to make drinks kind of. And so he usually defers to me, but he like looked at me like I was just a fucking moron, right? And he was like, how else are you gonna get the ice cream to mix? Alexanders are cool. Like that was one of the first drinks I learned how to make was Alexander, and I learned from Paul Harrington that Brandy Alexander is the sort of next generation of cocktails after what was called the Alexander, which was equal parts gin, dark creme de cacao, and cream. Of course, you know, we use half and half instead of cream because cream is just like greasy and fatty and gross in drinks, so we use half and half because it's a little lighter. So we're going to stick with the original Alexander recipe, which is 1 ounce of gin. You know, we use like a really high proof London dry gin, and 1 ounce of dark creme de cacao, and 1 ounce of half and half. And then you just shake it, and then you shave a little nutmeg on top, kind of like an eggnog. And the technique part is just getting it like right in the center, you know? So we'll just like take a microplane and we'll just shave off like a little bit of nutmeg on the top and serve it. You know, it's a great postprandial, Christmassy, Thanksgiving-y cocktail. And it's, you know, it's great. It's a Alexander cocktail. It's awesome.